Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inside AWAI. Today we're talking about 12 ways to get paid writing content. My name is Rebecca Matter, and I'm joined by Katie Yeakle. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Rebecca. Hi, everybody.
And our Director of Training, Pam Foster. Hi, Pam.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad you joined us.
Yes, I'm so excited about this session. We talk a lot of times about all the various opportunities to make a living as a writer, but content is just blowing up. And there's a lot of confusion about it. What is content marketing? What is content writing? How does it differ from copy? And what are the actual opportunities? Most people, when they think of content, think articles. And that is a type of content, but we're going to explore a lot of other ones today as well. So before we jump in, kind of our goals for this webinar, today we're going to understand what the content marketing demand really is. You know, what are we talking about when we say it's growing, that there's a big demand? We'll look to see who uses content, so potential clients for you and your business. We'll look at 12 different content writing opportunities, and that's not even all of them, but these are the 12 that we think about most and that are used most often. And then we'll see how each one works. We'll look at we'll see what it looks like. So when we say this project type, you'll have a really good understanding as to what it really is. We'll give the pay ranges and what the opportunities are, and then we'll close out with what's next and open it up for questions. So let's start at the beginning now, just to make sure we're all on the same page and kind of level that playing field. What is content marketing? So these are two definitions. The one that's in I'm guessing this is Google. If you just Google content marketing, you'll see the creation and sharing of online material intended to stimulate interest. And then there's this Content Marketing Institute. They're saying content marketing is a marketing technique of creating, distributing valuable, relevant, consistent content to attract and acquire a clearly defined audience. But the last part is actually what's the most interesting to me, with the objective of driving profitable customer action. So yesterday, we actually were on something called the Companion Series, where we walked through AWAI's accelerated program for six-figure copywriting. And I use a lot of times in the way I'm talking, I'll say copywriting and then I'll say content writing, or when you're writing copy or content. So of course we get the question, what is the difference between copy and content? And it was a discussion that we had because back in the day, when I first joined AWAI, AWAI has been around for over 20 years now. I joined about 14 years ago. And when I started, copy and content were two completely different camps. The content writers looked at the copywriters and said, we're content writers. We don't sell, the copywriting side, those are the sales people. Not saying that they thought they were better then, but it was just a different purpose. They thought their job was to inform, to distribute this relevant information, and they're content writers. Whereas the copywriters on the other camp looked at the content writers and said, well, yes, we get people to take action. That's why we make so much more money than you. Not just, again, because they're better than, but there was this feeling of two different camps of copy and content. Lately, in the last 2 years, the two worlds have come together. Content writers now understand that their job, and you've probably heard this word persuasion, we talk about persuasion over in the copywriting world to persuade someone to take an action. The content writers now are saying, we understand persuasion too, but we call it persuasion. Content writers, their job is to get the right audience. So part of this definition I do agree with, to attract that right audience, to know what that audience wants, attract them, and move them towards the sale. So that when the copy appears, the sales letter or whatever it is, it's actually going to ask for the sale, they're 80% of the way there. Brian Clark from Copyblogger, the first time anyone really connected copy and content for me was I had a conversation with him, and he said the job of content is to get the reader 80% of the way there, so that when the sales message appears, they're ready for it. And it makes the sales job that much easier. So if copy and content work together, it's that much more effective. Businesses have better results. And so that's what content marketing really is. It's helping the right audience. It's helping clients bring in the right audience that is relevant for the products or services that they're trying to sell, and then informing them, moving them towards that conversation so that they can be ready to take that next step, which is actually buying the product or service that they're selling. So that's content marketing. It's basically, again, it's persuading. It's informing, but the ultimate intention is to get them ready for the sale. So the demand today, it's huge. According to this marketing mag, content marketing is going to be a $300 billion industry by 2019. That's a lot of money for both of us, all of us to get our mind around. $300 billion, that's a lot, right? But the most important part about that stat is that it will have doubled in just under 4 years. So a market that has been around forever, all of a sudden is hitting such big traction that it's going to double. That does not happen in a lot of marketing channels unless they're brand new. So 80% of B2B marketers, if you're brand new to AWAI, you don't know what B2B is, business to business. That's when a business sells to another business instead of to a consumer like you and me. 80% of those companies use content marketing. They're putting money into content marketing. 75% of marketers are increasing their spending, which makes sense because we just saw that spending is going to double in 4 years. Their top challenge, as reported, creating it. These people run businesses. They manufacture widgets. They do whatever business they're in. They're not there to write content, right? They're not a publishing company. So they have to find ways of publishing all this content. In order to bring in people from the search engines, from social media, from anywhere else, they have to have this content, but that's not their job. They're not writers. They're not trained to write. They're not even trained to evaluate writing. They're trained to manufacture widgets and run their business. So they need writers like you. The two most outsourced activities in content marketing, writing and design. Now, I always believed that freelancers were a big part of this industry, but I was talking to Gordon Graham, who is one of the most seasoned content journalists in the industry, and he was saying, Rebecca, you would be shocked. Like, most of the writing is not done in-house. Most content marketing is outsourced. It's just not part of their business. So it was cool, even though I see these stats, to hear from somebody who's in the field doing it. It was great, just kind of a reinforcement that, yes, this is right. This is where our writers need to be. Every business, no matter what they are, needs content marketing to compete online. Like I was saying before, they're not publishers, though. But yet, in order to show up on Google, if I'm searching for ABC widget, if I'm searching for instant safety products or whatever, the only way your website will show up on Google or any other search engine is to have content, to have relevant content, and to have new content. You can't just publish content and walk away. You have to publish it again and again and again. And it can't be the same content. It has to be new content. So every single business that you can think of, try to think of a business these days that doesn't have an online presence, right? They can't just have a website. They have to have content to bring people in and move them towards that sale. So now that we're all excited about writing content, let's go ahead and dive in and actually start looking at some of the different ways. So Pam, I'm going to pass you the ball.
Okay. Just waiting to see that. Great. All righty. So we have 12 projects that actually AWAI uses all the time. So we know a lot about them. And just so you know, I'm also a freelancer on the side. I work in the veterinary industry. And several of these items are things that I get asked for. And the first one is blog posts. I do a lot of blog post writing for clients, and here's an example here. It's the Moz blog, and Moz is kind of a leading authority in the world on search engine traffic and websites that work and all that stuff. But blog posts are simply a weblog. That's what they used to call it, and that's where the word blog came from, where someone would have a website where they regularly update that site with content on a specific topic, and it's relevant to a specific audience. And ideally, it's written to be a friendly conversation from one human to another. It's not corporate sounding. It should be very one-on-one. And it's usually filled with tips, ideas, how-tos, reviews, sometimes case studies. But the blog is becoming so important to clients of all kinds. And now, why is that? Well, because companies that blog have been proven to have 55% more website visitors. All that content on the blog is going out into search engines. So if somebody in their client base or their audience happens to search for something in Google that's relevant to what that company does. So I'll give you an example. I have written blog posts for a business-to-business company. It's a manufacturer of veterinary equipment, and they're speaking to veterinary practices. So they might blog on things like how to choose the right exam room table, and we'll write a blog post on that. Well, guess what? When a vet clinic is going to find or buy a new exam room table, they might go into Google and search, how do I find or choose the right one? This blog post will show up. And the blog post drives traffic to the whole website for that client. So blogging can be extremely powerful. It also brings in 90% more inbound links. So what that means is other people may be linking from that blog post to their website or vice versa. So there's a lot of sharing going on if it's really good content. And because a blog post each is an individual web page on a person's or a company's website, that means 434% on average more indexed pages for a company. That's 434% more pages that Google will rank in the results when someone's searching. So it's pretty amazing. They're very, very powerful. The great thing, too, for you as a writer is that they're continuous. You can't just blog one day and then never blog again. A blog is meant to be a frequent thing. And that's why it's great for what we call retainer deals. So I actually have one with my freelance with a freelance client in the vet space, and I do 2 posts a month for 12 months, and we're on a retainer for the year. So you can do that, and it's a great way to lock in a nice steady income and project pipeline for yourself. The length is typically 1,000 or more words now. Google really likes long pages that are full of incredible content, so they're favoring even 2,000 word pages. The time it takes can be 1 to 3 hours. Once you get really comfortable with a client, it can be shorter, easier. When you're first starting, it might be more than that because you might have to interview somebody or just get to know the voice and everything. The fee is you can charge $150 up to $800 a post, depending on the length and complexity, and even more if you're managing the blog topics calendar once a year for the client, like I do. So we'll set up a calendar and map out, okay, in spring it's always senior dog testing season or whatever. Bunch of blogs on that. We have a resource on how to blog for businesses, and it's called the Crash Course for B2B in B2B Content Writing. When we do the replay on our website on Inside AWAI, you can click on those links, and there'll be live links to the programs. Okay. Anybody want to add anything to blogs before I move on? You guys all good?
We do have one question from Jim. What kind of writing would you do in a blog? How do you express yourself? Do you want to talk about kind of the relevancy and recency of a blog post?
Sure. So like this example here is a wedding blog. They talk about different wedding ideas and different weddings that happened and what they did that was so amazing, and it's inspiration. So it all depends on who you're trying to reach and what the interest is. If it's a business blog, like I'm talking about veterinary equipment, the tone would be very friendly from the manufacturer to the decision maker. And it would just be saying, hey, if you're trying to figure out what kind of exam room to buy, here are 3 ideas that will help you. 1, is it made out of stainless steel? Because stainless steel, blah, blah, blah. So it's just very conversational and friendly, and you want to use the language your audience uses and connect with them in a personal way. Hopefully that helps.
Yep, Pam, Carol's asking on the same topic. Does the client come up with the ideas, or do you bring the ideas to your client? Is it a mixture?
It's definitely a mixture. There are some great ways to find ideas by talking to the customer, the client, and maybe even their customer service department, because they get questions all day long, you know, that they answer. And so if they're answering questions, then it's very likely that the whole audience of prospective buyers would have similar questions. Same with the salespeople at a client's company. I've often talked with a sales force, you know, somebody who is out in the street every day with prospects saying, what are the hot questions that people ask you or topics you want to cover? And recently it was interesting, for example, the vet company started creating grooming centers for high-end apartment complexes. And nobody's ever written about that before. And we thought, oh my God, what a leading-edge topic that would be as more and more complexes are setting up these doggy-friendly centers. So, and then you might see something in your travels if you're in an industry and say, hey, we should probably write about this too. So it's a collaborative effort.
We do have a few more questions, but I know we have so much great information to get through today. We'll answer the questions as Pam's going on to the next topic, but I think we could probably spend a whole hour on blogs. We could probably spend a whole hour on all of these, but we do want to keep it moving. So Pam, yeah. I do think you should move on.
Okay. Well, I think it'll be fun to spend an hour on each of these different things because there's a lot going on out there with with them, but today we wanted to give you a glimpse of each one. The second one is case studies, and companies that serve the B2B market as well as the consumer market use these to showcase credibility and proof and peer-to-peer connections with the reader or the prospect. Here's an example here that we have on Steve Combs, who's one of our members, and being part of AWAI really changed his life. So basically they're short before-after stories. They can be a few pages long in the more technical B2B world, but typically they're pretty short. And they describe how a company or an organization solved a challenge, a common challenge that many in their audience would have, and it's how the company or organization or person solved it with a product or service and the results of solving that challenge. So of course it would be the client's product or service that was the solution. And here's an example. So Nestle Waters has salespeople or employees all over the world, and they now have a system to stay in touch when they're not in Wi-Fi. And I have no idea what that means because I'm not in that industry. But I'll show you another example. Hang on. But basically, it's doing the talking or the boasting on behalf of the client through a real story, which makes it more credible. It's like Steve telling his story about coming to AWAI and finding a way to change his life through copywriting is way powerful and relatable to anyone else who wants to do that, more than just us just saying it's great and changes lives. So gosh, there are so many examples out there. If you just Google case studies, you'll see a variety of different types in manufacturing, in software, and even in things like weight loss products, which go to the consumer. You can show that, of course, the classic is the before and after. So here's Jim before he went through our weight loss program, and here he is after, and he's a believer, and here's what he has to say. So that's like a classic case study idea. Clients need them throughout the year and the buying cycle, because decision makers don't always buy instantly, especially in the business world. They sometimes have to take months to decide because it's a big, expensive change for them. So the more they can see proof from others like them out in the world, that is extremely powerful to them. So one client can need a lot, and we've even had, last year in 2017, we had 40 different case studies created for our website. So that's just us, one company alone. Think of that times, gazillion companies out there. The typical length of a case study, like I said, it's fairly short, 800 to 1,200 words. Might take about 5 to 8 hours. And this is one of those projects that pays very, very well. You can charge $1,250 to $2,000, maybe even more, for a really great case study. And that's $200 to $300 per hour. Who doesn't want to earn that? Raise your hand. I don't want to earn $300 an hour. I think that everybody would love to earn that. So the source for that to learn a lot more is our Writing Case Studies program, which is all focused on that. Any questions or comments before I move to the next? Okie dokie.
Lots of interesting case studies, but nothing specific that we haven't covered yet. But
okay.
Everybody's definitely recognizing the opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. It's so exciting. All right. White papers is the next one. White papers have a few different hats, but in essence, they're very helpful documents that were put together to reveal findings of a survey or show how a study turned out, or talks about something new in technology that's just been, or in manufacturing that's just solved a lot of problems for people. So in essence, it's 5 to 10 pages in general. It's an informational report that defines a business problem and presents a new or better solution. So, or it might reveal some trends in the industry that need to be addressed. And by the way, the client is the perfect person to address those needs, right? So it'll often include statistics, survey findings, stories. It's sometimes called a special report, or a, I'm trying to think if there's another word too, but basically anything that is free information that is highly, highly helpful and informational and relevant to the audience, we kind of lump under the category of white paper because they have a similar structure no matter what kind it is. It's a powerful lead generation tool, and what I mean by that is the white paper itself has value, but it's not pushing necessarily a product sale decision right at that moment. It's setting the tone, as Rebecca mentioned. It's opening the door for the prospect to get excited to then hear a sales message from this company. So we call that lead gen because we're going to get a lead, and then the company would follow up through email or an invitation to a webinar or a call from a rep. So that's what a lead means. So these are great for that. 76% of surveyed buyers in a recent study are most willing to share their email in exchange for getting a white paper. So you've probably seen this yourself, where you're interested in something, you see that a free report or special report is being offered, and all you have to do is put in your email address, and then you can get the download of that report. Very common because it's extremely powerful and helpful for getting people who could be in a pool of interested buyers. The cool thing too about white papers is the content can be repurposed into other content. So you could take a white paper apart and create a few blog posts. You could create a video. You could create a Facebook page posts. There's all kinds of ways to use the content from a white paper, and that's its big value. The length is typically 2,500 to 500 words, about 25 to 50 hours to create because it is in-depth and you want to do a spectacular job, and that means digging into surveys or talking to people in the company or customers. You can, if you can do 2 a month, here's just a fun example. The fees are $2,500 to $7,000, so think about if you did 2 a month at $6,000 a piece, that's $144,000 a year. Okay, 2 a month. That's all you could be the white paper writer for a certain industry, only write 2 of these a month, and look at that. It's pretty exciting. So we do have a program or a resource on how to write white papers that command high fees, and you'll want to check that out to go way into detail. Any questions before I move on? Okay. I'm going to assume that people are cranking away on questions in the Q&A, and then we'll answer the rest.
We're cranking away, Pam. So you just keep on going. We'll stop if we need to.
All righty. So articles are also incredibly powerful for bringing in traffic from the search engines if you do it right, if you use the right phrases that people are using in Google to find your client's company. And articles are different from blog posts because you don't really have to have a set time frame or a common theme necessarily. It's more of an article section on your website that you can add to when you want. And you can also create as PDFs and send them out by email. You know, there's lots of things you can do with articles that are a bit different from a blog. But basically, they're helpful online articles filled with tips, lists, how-to steps, insights, and more, and it positions the author or the brand as the best resource for prospects looking to solve a problem or achieve a goal. The reason I'm showing this Dr. X probiotics article here is he's created an article as a guide that is probably 26 scrolls long in the website, but it is the most amazing article I've ever seen on probiotics. I just found it one day when I typed in, what are probiotics? So we have WebMD, we have Johns Hopkins University or Medical Center, and then we have this guy. Okay, the power of that, the power of one person or one small company showing up in Google results at the top of the page mixed with WebMD and Johns Hopkins is astounding to me because he wrote such a good page, such a good article. You have the power to do that for your client. Don't be intimidated by the big, huge companies because this is a perfect example. Google has deemed this such a good page, such a good article page, that they are giving it top rankings. So Hello, we beat out WebMD. Take that. So you can do that for clients. It's pretty exciting. And the reason that's such a great article page, it's not just text. It's not short. It's very robust, and it has graphics and images and charts and quotes. And I think it even has a video at the bottom. And it's just amazing. If you can Google Dr. Axe probiotics, you're going to find this and see why it's so incredible. Now, you don't have to do something that robust. You can still do very well as an article writer who's simply writing great content. But we call those pillar page articles, those big, really in-depth ones, and Google loves them. So clients, how to get going with writing articles, well, they're great sources of the helpful information you need to convey. They just don't have it out there. So talk to your clients, like what kinds of topics are your customers asking about, or what kinds of things are salespeople being asked again. And then you can write really great articles about that. Again, it's excellent for Google traffic, like I said, and long articles with visuals work the best. 1,200 to 2,000 words plus. I think the average now that Google ranks top is about 1,800 words. So it can take you maybe 2 to 4 hours to write one of these kinds of articles, maybe more if it's a super long, really robust. It could take days to do that kind of, super robust. But you would charge more for that. The general fee range for standard articles, which may be 2 or 3 scrolls long and have a few images, might be $250 to $800 an hour plus. Again, there's a resource here, Crash Course in B2B Content Writing. And there's a lot to say about articles, but the long pillar ones are really a wonderful opportunity that if you're working for a client now, you can just bet that their competition isn't necessarily doing this. So if you can help your client be the first ones to create amazing pages like that, that's going to help them show up in Google better than their competition. Now, ebooks. Ebooks is also very popular. People have tablets and e-readers, and they want to read while they're traveling in an airplane, and they don't want to carry a big book. And it's just really very popular now. Ebooks have grown and grown and grown. This is a website called ebooks.com, and it has every single kind of category you can imagine on earth. So there's plenty of room for ebooks and ebook writers. Now, what is an ebook, you may be asking? It's an electronic book. It's a digital format that's designed to be read on a computer, tablet, or e-reader, any kind of handheld device. You can also read ebooks on your laptop. So it makes publishing easier for authors, and it makes them more accessible for readers. It makes content that you want to get out there. You don't have to wait for a publishing house, and the person who wants to read the book doesn't have to wait for a book to be shipped in the mail or drive down to Barnes & Nobles. They have it instantly. So that, ebooks cover the range of everything from Stephen King novels to B2B books that were created like a kind of a white paper, but a white paper on steroids. It's going to be longer. It's going to be more detailed. So here, this example here is a B2B one that says, Gear Up for Success, 8 steps to get sales and marketing cranking in unison, free 27-page ebook. So it's more than a white paper. It's more in-depth, but it's being used for the same purpose. You would sign up with your email address, and then you can get access to a PDF downloadable ebook or a book that you can get through your e-reader. And how do those work? Well, the percent of Americans reading ebooks has risen from 17% to 28% in 5 years. It's still somewhat in its infancy and growth. There's a lot more opportunity here, and you can write and sell your own ebooks if you want to, or you can ghostwrite for businesses and consultants. So there's a double opportunity for you there. Write your own, sell your own, or write for companies who don't have the time or the skills to write an ebook, but they've got great content or ideas they want you to help them with. The typical ebook would be 12 to 50 pages or so. The time varies depending on the scope and what you have to do, what's involved, and the fees vary as well because of that. But Bob Bly's Ultimate Guide to Ebook Writing Success is the Bible on it, and I highly recommend you check that out because he'll walk through every step to making this work. All righty, now I'm going to hand the baton over to Katie because she's going to walk through the next section. Let me see here. Change presented.
Thanks so much, Pam. And I do want to stress, I'm hoping everybody's heard a common theme so far in the 5 opportunities that Pam's talked about, and that's steady income, retainer, low stress, low expenditures of time and research. You know, that's what is so great about a lot of these opportunities that we're talking about. And this next one that I want to introduce is e-newsletters. Now, if you think about all the service providers in the world, or in the country at least, and there are 26 million, the accountants, the architects, the vets, the dentists, the chiropractors, the coaches, the financial planners, I mean, the list goes on and on. The way that they typically keep in touch with their existing clients and prospect for new clients is through e-newsletters. This is a great one of these kind of steady gigs. A lot of times it's overlooked by writers, but it's just a great source of predictable income. And the majority of smaller to mid-sized businesses, you know, they don't have writers available to do this. It's, you know, the president can't do it, the marketing people can't do it, but it's such an important tool for establishing and nurturing relationships with existing clients and potential clients. So, and it's a fun job too, because if you get it and you're working every month kind of talking to the same people, you can have a part in that conversation in directing it, and you'll get feedback from the issues that you send out, and you'll get to know who the customers are and what's important to them. And it's like, you know, creating, you know, your own little publication based on knowing what the client wants to communicate to help grow his business. So they're daily, weekly, monthly, and they are sent from the company to customers and prospects, and it's to build relationships, maintain relationships, and to sell as well, to introduce new products and services. It's very cost-effective for companies to do this. It's measurable. You get feedback, you get responses, and they have a high ROI because it's a relatively small investment for the company to make, but it builds the relationships, like I was saying, as well as has opportunities for finding leads, converting leads, and actually making sales. Another beautiful thing about these for writers is once a company starts an e-letter, they really can't stop. You can't miss a month. You can't miss a week. You know, people, it's a source of credibility. It's something that people look forward to because they're getting information that they need and or are interested in. And especially if it's well written, which copywriters know how to do, it's something that's an enjoyable read for them. So, you know, that's one great part of it. You know, on a minimum, they're once a month, but oftentimes they're weekly or bi-weekly. And for the writer, it's one of these great ongoing, predictable income streams. You know, to start, the client might say, oh, you know, let's try 1 month or 3 months. But once you get into a rhythm and you show that you know how to do this, they would love nothing more than to sign you up for a year because they don't really want to think about it. They want to maybe give you a couple ideas, plan out a calendar, but then it's like up to you to just take it and run with it. And you turn in your manuscript every month, and then you start thinking about the next month's issue. Typically, they're between 1,200 and 1,500 words. And again, you think about, depends on how much research you have to do. Maybe there's interview with customers, or you don't know, but you could plan on maybe 8 hours, so maybe one full day. And the fees range from $1,000, can be up to $2,000. We have a great resource called Creating Email Newsletters, which that link will be live for you tomorrow. Definitely something to think about, and it's a great side gig too. That you know, you can do that while you're doing other things, and I just love the whole predictable income part of it. Another really valuable and a much needed piece of content that copywriters are so well suited to do is press releases. They're cheaper than traditional advertising. They let the company control the message that's being distributed, that's getting out there. And they're very formulaic in a way. You know, they're typically 1 to 2 page documents. They're distributed to the media, which the company does. You don't have to worry about that. And it's to announce something new, exciting, an award, an accomplishment, something that would qualify to be published in a newspaper or posted on a blog, something of interest. Maybe it's somebody local has won some great award, or some charity has reached a milestone. You know, some school has done something. You know, there's so many different uses for press releases. And like I said, they are somewhat formulaic. You know, they have 7 components. There's a logo and a release time. There's a headline and a subhead. There's an opening paragraph. There's the body, call to action. There's a little couple lines about the company, and then there's media contact information. So once you get that down, and then you learn the techniques for how to make this newsworthy and how to get editors' attention, which you can learn, especially if the fact that you're here and you're interested in this. This is all very learnable. So again, it's another great bow to have in your quiver there. There are effective ways to generate favorable publicity and search traffic. You know, companies love them because they're controlling the message. And it creates a great relationships between companies, individuals, organizations, and the public. They've been around forever, and they're certainly not going anywhere. They're typically on the shorter side, only 500 words. Might take you a day or two, you know, not solid, but depending on the research that's involved. And, you know, companies are happy to pay anywhere between $500 and $1,000. Again, we have another great resource for that, which you'll have a link to tomorrow when this is posted. The 8th opportunity we're talking about are slide decks and webinars. Now, these are typically used for sales, but they're also really valuable for others as well. There's other potential clients out there when you think about speakers, sales presentations, business meetings, communicating with customers or prospects about, you know, any number of things. The beauty of these are, again, they're not very long, so they don't take a lot of time to write. And once you find a company that uses these, you're going to find that they have very big appetites, because once they're training their customers or their staff or their people to expect these, this is what they want. You know, they're typically sales presentations using voice over PowerPoint. They're interactive. Sometimes they have some live video or audio, and sometimes there's multiple speakers. So you're really creating like a, you know, I don't want to get too complicated, but you're creating this experience for your for the end users that, you know, can be a lot of fun. You can touch into some creativity, and, you know, they're quick, so that's nice too. Their goal typically is to generate leads, drive traffic, and close sales. The beauty of them is that it allows the clients to talk to a much wider audience. It's not just one-on-one. It's one-to-many. And, you know, it gives the client a competitive advantage, and it builds interest, it builds enthusiasm, it generates interest in what they're offering. Typically are 20 to 30 slides, and what you're doing is writing the script. You may have image ideas that you can either include or just write out and say that's what you'd like. Somebody else will do the technical part. You're just creating the script, so to speak, within this PowerPoint. You know, it'll take you a few days, again, depending. The more you do, the quicker you get. You know, we have probably, I think it's at least 2 or 3 people that help us with our slide decks and our webinars. We hired somebody to do this one for us. And we have a great resource that goes into detail about that, the crash course in B2B content writing. Content writers are often speech writers. They're often very good speech writers. You know, copywriters have an advantage because the best speeches are persuasive, they're conversational, they're engaging, they make promises, they paint pictures, all the things you're learning as a copywriter. That's what a great speech does. And when you just think about business owners, politicians, you know, city officials, so many people have to give speeches and don't know where to start, and they're terrified of it. And they'll pay anybody, you know, whatever they want, the right person, they'll pay the right person anything that they want to help them deliver this speech and help them create a fun, engaging, useful, informative speech. So, you know, they are scripts that you're writing for executives, thought leaders, or other authorities. And length varies, but just for an example here, if it were 10 to 20 minutes, that would equal about 2,400 to 3,200 words. That could take you, you know, 10 to 20 hours, again, depending on how much research you have to do, how much time you spend with the person who will be giving the speech. These can range 4,000 to 8,000, and plus there could be other things that are added on, like, you know, handouts or follow-up emails or, you know, who knows what, but it opens the door for you to be the voice of whoever the authority figure is. Just a few little stats here. The U.S. Bureau of Labor says conventions and events expanding by 44% from 2010 and 2020. And when you just think about all the online events, all the business-specific events, you know, there's so many of them, and speeches are becoming so much more viewed, and there's just more pressure on the people delivering them to have good quality, engaging material, which is what copywriters do. Okay, this is a kind of almost like a hybrid between, you know, the PowerPoint scripts and the speech writing, and these are video scripts. They're used to generate leads, create buzz, create a competitive advantage for the company. And our B2B experts say video scripts have really changed the whole B2B industry forever. If you go to, you know, 9 out of 10 websites, you know, there is probably a video on that website. And like we were talking about some of the other content types, you just don't do one and done. You have to keep refreshing it. You have to have something new. You have to have, it's an appetite that doesn't go away. So once you learn how to do this, and once you show that you understand the goal and intent of how to do this, and once you show that you can help these people, the companies, connect with their prospects, you just have really unlimited opportunity there. You know, the videos really are the best ways for companies to get their messages across, and that's just going to become more and more so the case. You know, you don't have to worry about the technical the technical parts of the video. There's other production companies that do that. You're just focused on the script. Oftentimes these are how-tos or demonstrations. They're interviews. They're slice in the life of. They're all of this content pretty much brought to life. They make the companies seem real. They make the customers seem real. They show the product in action, which is just such a great, powerful sales tool. 70% of marketing pros say that videos convert better than any other medium, and I have a feeling that number is just going to continue to increase. And video increases email clicks by up to 300% and landing page conversions by 80%. A landing page is once you get to, if you get an email or you're on a website and you click onto another page, that's called a landing page. So if you, by the time you get there, you're already engaged, and then a video just makes it even more enticing to hear the message. Typical videos that you find on websites, the type of videos that we're talking about that are with the intention of sales, could be 30 seconds to 5 minutes. They're typically not much longer than that. You know, to write the script, it could take, 1 to 3 days, or, maybe a week tops, again, depending on how much research you need to do and the complexity of what you're doing. And companies are happy to pay $1,000, $1,500 for those scripts. So, again, another great opportunity to use your writing skills in this content world. Rebecca, I'm going to flip the ball over to you, and you can take us home.
Thank you, Katie. I'm loving these questions, guys. We've got people on all different stages. So it's really cool to see where they are. All right, so the last two, this one everybody should know, websites, right? Again, at the beginning, remember I asked you to think about any company that you could possibly think of that doesn't have an online presence, doesn't have a website. Everybody needs a website. All of it has a lot of content on it, and that can be written by a content writer. Now, some of this will be also written by a copywriter. So here's one of those places where copy and content merge together, because ideally a website has a purpose and is trying to convert people into something. It's trying to attract a certain prospect and move them along into a customer. But most businesses need help with their websites. Even our website that I just showed you, we redesigned it a few years ago. It is in desperate need of a new redesign. It's always this evolving animal. As the industry changes, as the business changes, it needs to change as well. And lots of times, many websites are just dated or just not focused on the right prospect. Pam actually has a wonderful program called Site Audits Made Simple. I think we talked about another program in this section, but her program, Site Audits Made Simple, shows you actually how to audit a website and find all of the content places that are failing, so that you can then turn around to the client and say, hey, these are the places that could make your website better. And by the way, I happen to be a content writer, and I can write those things for you. So you get paid once for the audit, and then once again to actually do the work. So I love that program. I think so many member services, if you could maybe post it in the chat, it would be a useful program for people to look at as well. I also want to point out in this presentation, we've given you a lot of links to programs, not because we're telling you to go buy a bunch of programs. That's not the point of that. We definitely don't want you just going out in lots of different directions. But our promos for our programs are great research tools. So when you ask what a white paper is, when you ask what a case study is, 80% of our promos are research-based, right? So in any time when we say, you can make a great living as a case study writer, go read the case study promo, not to buy the program, but to learn about case studies, because we're going to tell you what the project is, how much work it entails, who hires it, how much you get paid, what the demand is. We cover all of those things because we're researchers. Writers are often researchers. So we want to make sure that we have all that information in there. So definitely use these links to learn more about these opportunities, and then possibly decide to take the training as well. But coming back to websites, all roads lead to websites. Every piece of content that's out there, everything, the whole job is to point it all back into the website, whether it's driving people to the blog that's on the website, whether it's a social media post out there that's leading back to the website. If you're doing placed articles on other websites, it's to lead them back to your website. So everything's coming to the website, and then each website has multiple pages in and of itself. Clients usually don't know why they're doing well or why they're not doing well. So someone like a copywriter or a content writer who can come in and audit their website and say, hey, great site, we can make it a whole lot better. You're bringing all these people in. Let's show them how to actually take the action that you want them to take. And things are just always changing. Web Copywriting 2.0 is that program that we usually direct people to first. It's written by Nick Usborne, who basically created the opportunity for online copywriters back when the web came out and everyone thought, oh, we'll just stick our direct mail sales letters online and that'll work. Nick was the first person to say, no, it won't, because people online are different. They're not sitting back on their couch reading your magazine or reading your sales letter. They are looking for something online. They're leaning in. They're looking, and they're just bombarded with other distractions, instant messengers and banner ads and emails, and, oh, by the way, someone wants to talk to you over here, and what about this email? And so it's just a different world. And so Nick really does a good job of explaining the web and how writing and the intention of your writing is just different. But so websites are a great opportunity. They can be huge. It can be a simple 5-page website for the chiropractor, or it can be a 50 to 500 page. Like, you really don't know. Our website now is got to be over 10,000 pages. So it can get so much bigger. And then finally, that brings us to social media, which might be my the content type that I am most enthusiastic about. I've always been not necessarily a fan. I've always understood the value of social media because I am a marketer. So I understand that there's millions of people, and you can target them directly. We can target by their interests, and we can figure out who our best prospects are and reach them directly. But lately, I'm obsessed with social media for this purpose. Social media is basically reaching out, right, to the people that are of interest, the relevant audience for your client, and giving them relevant content that brings them back to your client, that builds an audience, that brings them back to your website, along with making a great living, just doing this, just having conversations and building audiences and answering their questions. The thing I'm most obsessed about right now is that as a social media writer, you can easily get paid $1,000, $2,000, I saw another stat today, of up to $3,000 a month just to do that stuff, just to post comments and engage with people and answer their questions and get people talking. Just that activity is a great retainer. So Katie talked about this, that predictable income that comes in every single month just for participating on social media. A lot of people are on social media anyways, so why not get paid $2,000 from a client to do it for them as well? But here's the one little side conversation that I'm obsessed with. By managing social media, you're basically talking to your client's audience all the time. So you're hearing in their words what their problems are. You're hearing what solutions they're looking for, what solutions they've been happy with, what solutions they were not happy with. They're telling you exactly what you need. As a copywriter or content writer, you get to use all of that. We talk about writing like you speak and writing in the language of your reader. They're telling you their exact language. They're telling you their problems. So your copy and your content is going to be so much stronger just because you're constantly tuned in to your client's audience. And they're going to give you so many ideas for content. So just by managing social media, you're going to be able to turn back to your client daily and say, hey, I've got a great new idea for an article, or maybe we should do this for a blog post, or maybe we should have an infographic like this, or issue a press release like that, because your audience is basically telling you all of their ideas. So I always talk about being an idea machine. You don't even have to come up with the ideas. You can let their audience do it for you. So I'm obsessed with this opportunity just because, one, it's a great way of making retainer a predictable income. And for anyone looking to transition or dip their toe in to see if this is real, if you're looking to transition from a full-time job to the freelance life, retainers are great because it gives you stability. You've got bills to pay. You want to know that you have stable income month after month. So things like social media are fantastic for that. But beyond that, it could actually be a source of ideas that bring you even more revenue in just by having, other ways of contributing ideas for content to your clients. Okay, so we have gone through 12 ways, and that's really just like scratching the surface, but what's next is to get started. Pick one, pick two, pick three, decide on one for now, and then let your clients tell you what they want. You might start with press releases, and a client says, hey, that's so fantastic that you write press releases, but you know what I really need is someone who can do my newsletter. Great, I can do that. I've got time in my schedule a couple weeks from now. You head over to AWI, you go to the catalog, you grab the program, you learn how to write it, and off you go. As you'll see when you start going out there, clients don't just need one content type, they need many, if not all. And so once you get started, one project somebody was actually posting in the Q&A, how do you price when they hire you for this one thing, but they also need this, that, and that. So we were talking about in the Q&A about how to handle that, but you'll see that one project oftentimes leads to a lot more. So explore the projects. Think about what you might like to write. Determine the ones you want to start with. Again, your clients may change your mind. If someone is, again, you went down the case study route and someone says, that's great, but I'll pay you $5,000 to write this white paper, you might decide to go down that path instead for now. You'll want to get the skills in all of our programs, whether you learn it from us or you learn it from somewhere else, get the skills. Make sure that you are putting your best foot forward, that you understand the structure of a press release or the formula behind a case study so that your work does the right job. If you do take any training from AWI, know that along with the skills, we also provide information on getting clients with every project type that we teach. It's part of what we call the AWI method for teaching. We really believe that it's not just about having skills, it's about also being able to find people to pay you for those skills. So every program that you take from us, know that it does have that component. If you take Ed Daniga's Writing Case Studies program, he's going to talk to you about how to present yourself as a case study writer and how to land clients. And then just to get started, you can talk to local businesses or company contacts in your industry. We have tons of great webinars on Inside AWI about marketing yourself, whether you want to proactively go market yourself or have people come to you if you're a total introvert. There's tons on the Inside AWI page about that. And then just start writing. That's what we talk about all the time. The more you write, the better you get, the faster you get. Somebody posted that 1,200 words is a lot to write. The more you write and the faster you learn how to type, you'd be surprised how fast and how many words you can write in an hour. It becomes kind of like a competition, a challenge for you. So with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today for this webinar on 12 different ways to get paid to write content. And ladies, do we have any other questions that have not been answered?
Yeah. I want to, let me find this. Oh, Beth was asking, what about email marketing? Is that still effective? And my answer was absolutely. Email is really more on the copywriting side than the content side, and we were focusing on content today. And, another thing to keep in mind is companies aren't just going to pick one of these. Most of them will use a variety. Some of them will use all of them, but 99.9% will use email marketing in addition to. There really aren't many companies now that aren't using some form of email marketing. But like I said, that's a little bit more on the copywriting side, so we'll have another call about that one.
I'm actually. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I've seen a couple in the regular Q&A that haven't been assigned yet to priority, I don't think. Oh, Neil. Okay, well, I'd love to answer Neil's question. Is it practical to try to contact chambers of commerce in one's home or other close cities to try and get in touch with business people? Yes, yes, yes is my answer, yes. Any place where business people are gathered, there are also local meetup groups, M-E-E-T-U-P. If you Google meetup and type in your area code, your zip code, you can find groups on marketing or business groups, networking, that kind of thing. Wherever there are business people gathering, that's a great place for you to go and network and say how do you do and tell them what you do. And sometimes there are even local business expo trade show kind of things where companies will show up and there's all kinds of vendors there. And you could go and talk with web companies and say, hey, who's doing all the content for your clients? And they're like, give me your card right now. So I highly recommend going local to find any type of client you can.
Pat is asking, how much of this work is placed by agencies versus corporations? I don't know the exact percentage or amount. It's plenty of work placed in both situations. We focus more on working directly with companies, although we have had, many of our writers that have worked with agencies. They're both very viable options for you. And I wouldn't limit yourself or think you have to pick one or the other.
And I will say there's a great webinar that Pam did on the 5 different types of clients, agencies being one of them. So I did post the link under that one.
Oh, good.
And I will say that the majority of work for freelancers is going to be on I would say on the company side, because agencies, it's a good opportunity if you want to work for big names, but I think it is a smaller piece of this than the direct-to-company side. But that webinar that Pam did was exceptional on understanding who the 5 buckets of clients are.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I'm going to head up to the chat for a second. So, guys, remember to post your questions in the Q&A. But, Dorothy, I'm coming to you because I did ask you to repost them below, and I don't see that you did. So let me answer your questions really quick. Does the client provide the information and the slant direction purpose of the copy? What is the collaboration like between the copywriter and client? So the client will ask you typically, this is what I want you to write, but it's usually up to you to come up with the idea. Sometimes they'll give it to you, but you want to have ideas as well, and you need to ask that question. What is the purpose of this copy? That is the first question you should ask with anything that you're doing. How are we going to deem success? What is the point? Am I supposed to be linking them to something? Are we trying to drive traffic to somebody? Are we trying to bring people in? What is the ultimate goal of this copy? That's so important. So you'll work directly with the client. As far as the relationship goes and the collaboration, it'll depend on the client, but usually it's very collaborative. It's a conversation. They're not expecting you to come in and wave a magic wand and solve all of their problems. It comes from you developing a relationship and interviewing them and really figuring out who their audience is and what they're looking for and what the company's goal is. And so they will actually work with you on the copy or content to make it stronger. On that, remember, it's in both of your best interests that the copy or content be great. So your clients it's not an adversarial relationship. If they give you feedback, if they give you direction, they want to do that because they want your copy to work, which is if you're on the copy side and you're getting royalties, that's very important to you. You want your copy to be the best it can be as well. But even on the content side, you want a great relationship, you want it to be effective, you want your client to achieve their goals. And so you're working together because you have a common goal to make that copy or content awesome. Dorothy also asked, how does the copywriter do research? Don't clients make it available? They will make some available, but I will tell you, if you're going to be a content writer or copywriter, get good at research. Be curious. Be that person who loves to read and research, because even if they give you research, they already know all that. You might be able to uncover something much cooler and much more interesting and find a bigger idea by doing research on your own. So just be curious. Always dig deeper. Ask like the next level of questions from what they've given you. And then finally, back to that one she put in the Q&A, do you have to be in the industry you are writing about? If you do, this is what we often talk about, picking a niche. Pam Foster is an expert on this. She's done a great webinar on Inside AWAI about this as well. If you have experience in the industry, it will be great. You'll be able to leverage it. If you have 10 years of working in solar technology or as a nurse or whatever your job function was, you will be able to apply it because you have all the industry knowledge. You understand the jargon. You understand how people talk and who the buyers are. But if you don't have it, you can work around it. So we always say focus on what you do have, not on what you don't have. It will be super helpful if you have industry experience, but it's not necessarily necessary. You might be able to do enough research or be informed enough simply just by being the prospect, being the person that they're trying to sell to, or having a passion about that thing. Maybe you love martial arts. You've never worked in martial arts, you've never written copy in martial arts, but you've taken martial arts for 10 years. You're enthusiastic about it. That could be enough experience just to be successful, and yes, you can leverage that. So everybody else is posting in the chat. Please post in the Q&A, and that way we make sure that your questions get answered. You guys have more? I have another one from Tom in the chat. Would a Main Street local business marketer be considered a niche, no matter what the business is? Is it too small? It could be okay to start out that way, but I wouldn't recommend staying there. Small businesses typically aren't going to have the budgets to afford you as you get bigger, or as you just become more proficient at what you're doing, and it can be challenging to market yourself. If you're in a specific industry, it's much easier to say, just for the reason Dorothy mentioned, I understand this audience. I understand this industry because this is the area that I work in. Whereas if you're writing for 5 different industries or different small businesses, that can be challenging for you to really get to know their prospect. Are you guys both answering questions?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good.
Denise is still confused about the difference between copywriting and content writing. But honestly, Denise, I would recommend that you start this webinar all over again and the replay, because sometimes you do need to hear it a few times for it to sink in. Copywriting in very broad terms is persuasive writing that with the goal, with the intention of getting the reader to take a specific action. Content is more on the persuasion side, where it's informing, engaging, creating interest in a topic, service, product. But Rebecca gave a great definition at the very start of this. Kathy is asking, when marketing yourself, is it a good idea to have a business card? If so, what, you know, there's definitely mixed feelings about business cards. And the idea is that, yes, if you have a website up, or, you know, if you want to have a little calling card that directs people to get more information about you. But the reality is that people really don't want business cards. It's more important for you to get the information of the people you want to have a relationship with, and then for you to follow up. You know, it's asking a lot to meet somebody, give them a card, and then expect them to follow up with you, unless they just, you know, there was this huge connection and they're dying for exactly what you have to offer. But the whole client, getting clients, building your business, which we have so much great information about, it's all about relationship building. And when you put it in those terms, you'll see that, you know, business cards aren't as useful as they were, say, 10, 20, 30 years ago. You know, they're fun to have, and they could come in handy, but I wouldn't really count on them as a business building tool. Now, Pam, who's actually built her copywriting business, may feel differently, but that's my feeling about it.
Can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry, because I was answering
just keep going.
other questions. Okay.
Yeah, just keep going, keep going.
I heard my name, but I was answering somebody else.
Just to continue on with what Katie was saying, I agree. You want to collect more than hand out business cards. If you just think about it from the driver's seat perspective, I would never want to have to wait by the phone to see if somebody remembers to call me. I would rather, I'll follow up with you next Tuesday, because now I'm in the driver's seat. So collect business cards, don't pass them out.
Okay, I want to answer a question that Beverly is asking that I've seen a few people ask, and she says, do you recommend writing under an assumed name? Basically, you can pick whatever name you want. It's totally up to you. You can have a business name. So mine is Content Clear Marketing, and I used to have a pet site called petcopywriter.com. I've since sold that. But I decided to go for the business name approach. And then when I was blogging, I'd put my own personal name at the end of the blog post, that type of thing. But, you know, it all depends on what you want to do. There are lots of people who are, you know, Jeff Smith copywriting.com type with their name in it, and that's totally fine. It's really your preference. I don't think clients care so much. The only reason I chose petcopywriter.com at the time was because it instantly said what I do and what industry I write for. So that was like a no-brainer for clients looking for a copywriter in the pet industry. So that's the only thing. It might be a little harder if you use your own name, is that you just have to make sure that somehow it's very clear on your website and in your materials what kind of services you offer and what industry you offer them to. But sure, you can use your own name or any name you want.
Pam, here's a question for you. I think I know your answer, but I'm just curious since it's niche related and you are a niche expert. From Honey, and she wants to know, if a niche is not known for having great cash flow and relies primarily on word of mouth, should I give up my dream of helping that niche, i.e. ballroom dancing? you know, that do have traditionally tight budgets. What would you say to that?
Well, I think before you give up on your dream type of niche, check out the business side of it. So there is a whole world out there of ballroom dancing equipment and supplies and costumes and events like ballroom dancing competitions. And the bigger picture of that whole world may have all kinds of great potential clients for you. I would definitely, you know, you could work for a local little ballroom dancing instructor class. You won't make a lot of money on it, but it gets you immersed in that industry and you understand what the ballroom dancing world is all about, or any industry you think of. And then go and look at the associations out there, or the big events, or all the suppliers to that industry. Every industry has suppliers, from shoes to, you know, I don't know what else. But look at all that before you give it up, because there might be a nice big global network of companies and associations involved in that you could tap into. All righty, let's see now. Gosh, we have so many questions. Anybody else want to jump in and answer one? Or?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm typing.
Oh, you're typing. Oh, Dan Kennedy. I heard Dan Kennedy say he doesn't use business cards, and he hasn't for most of his career. He gives them a book instead. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because when I was heavily promoting petcopywriter.com as a full-time freelancer before I joined AWAI, a partner and I wrote a book on marketing for the pet industry, and we did use that for our business card. We didn't have business cards either, but we would go to events and go, hey, have you seen our book? And we had little bookmarks with the name of the book, and we'd hand them out, and that book was the best business card I ever had. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
Somebody's asking, what was the place mentioned for getting clients? And I think it was Chamber of Commerce or meetup groups or industry associations.
Oh. Yeah, so we have so many webinars on, just go to the Inside AWAI page. We have like how to get your foot in the door with clients, how to research clients. I mean, it's all there, because those are like big topics that couldn't be covered quickly. No, but the important thing, one thing you couldn't take away is start telling everybody you're a copywriter. There are clients all around you, and as long as you've been through our accelerated program, you are a copywriter. And once you start letting the word out, you'll see the clients appear. I'm going to answer this one out loud. How would you handle content for commodity products, mugs, T-shirts, et cetera, in an animal niche? Using content or training wouldn't fit with a dog T-shirt. How would you change the approach for B2C commodity items versus B2B as discussed here? So think about this for a second. At the end of every day, whatever you're trying to sell, you're trying to attract someone who is the right prospect, the right buyer, the right audience for that product. In a B2B setting, it's another company. So we're trying to attract the right companies who are relevant, who can afford, who are looking for the products that we're selling. In B2C, business to consumer, we're looking for buyers. So let's say you're selling a pet T-shirt. You would want to be writing content that would attract dog lovers, right? If you're selling a dog T-shirt, all I have to do is find people who love their dogs, who would wear T-shirts, bring them in under content. So, for example, I literally just thought off the top of my head, 10 ways to pet-proof your home. You know, it could be about anything, but I'm attracting the right audience. I'm attracting, or, you know, best names for dogs in 2018, right? Fantastic blog post that's going to bring people in who are relevant that I can then turn around and sell dog T-shirts to. So that's how you attach content to your copy. Go ahead, Dan.
I thought you were done. Sorry. Well, okay, let me talk about animals for a minute. So if you're selling a pet product of any kind, what do you think people love on social media? Pet videos, right? Pet photos, pet videos, memes, funny stuff like that. If your T-shirt company is selling funny slogans on a dog T-shirt, for example, you could post something funny about why that slogan came to be, or even just post images about the slogan and say, you know, caption this. Or there's all kinds of ways you can engage super fans of any kind of industry like animals. So I would write content that is helpful, but also just really fun and full of visuals. And social media is great for that. Blogging is great for that. That would be my advice.
George has another question about who to contact. He has an idea. Please, just can't stress enough, all this information is here and available to you in Inside AWAI. If you go to that page, they're categorized by topic. We have so much on getting clients and managing those relationships and getting started and all of those things. I don't want to give it short shrift right here, but my quick answer is to take advantage of those webinars where we've spent a full hour on them.
Yeah, and I see a lot of questions on niches or on how to get your first client, and so I'm going to echo what Katie said. Inside AWAI, we have covered all these things at length. And so if you have niche questions, please go and look at those free sessions. We did 2 of them in depth on how to find a niche or an industry that you can really get into and have fun with. And then if you're a newbie, don't worry about being new. Most of the people we meet online in these events are new to this, and that's why we created Inside AWAI. It's all full. We've been doing this a year, almost 2 years now, of presentations on the most common questions people have about getting into copywriting. So please do look through that library of talks. We also have them on YouTube. If you want to just go to YouTube and Google how to get copywriting clients and then put AWAI in the search, our presentations will come up there too. But we have in-depth answers to all of this over there.
All right. Well, we're at the hour 20 mark. I don't know if we want to.
Susanna's asking if there's a resource on how to create editorial content. It depends what kind of editorial you're looking for. I have a free article on the website that's about how to write an article that gets published, just kind of how I approach my article writing. I can go find that for you in a second. In Web Copywriting 2.0, Nick covers a bunch of different editorial. So if you're writing for the web and you want to have that focus, adding editorial in, he covers it there. We cover it in badges. So it's not really open right now, but badges is something where we've taken the 8 project types that are usually on the B2C side of things, from landing pages and video scripts and editorial writing and email writing and sales funnels and search engine optimization, all that stuff, and walk you step by step. So it would be in badges. If everybody just watch for enrollment again when that opens. It really just depends what you want to do. We also cover editorial in the newsletter program with Michael Katz. So we got a lot of options. I'm going to grab that article for you now, though.
Kathy's asking about, is there an AWAI program that will result in a writer certification that's not necessarily the more sophisticated badges program? There is there's a verification that is the final step of the accelerated program for 6-figure copywriting, and it's called Pass That Test and You Are an AWAI Verified Copywriter. I think it's $50 to go through the process of taking the test. You have 3 chances to take the test, although if you've gone through the program and done the work, you might not need that. But that gets you a authorization, and you are AWAI verified. So that's a great place to start, and I recommend that.
I'm just posting a link to, it's also the foundation. So this Kathy, who was asking for an affordable program that results in some sort of writer certification. If you're brand new to this right now, that's the program you start with. We give you, there's lots of options, lots of different ways that you could go, but if you were to ask any one of us what program do I start with, we're going to say the accelerated program for 6-figure copywriting. Whether you go into content, whether you go into copy, whatever form, newsletters, grant writing, anything that you do, if you understand the basics of persuasion, you will be that much better of a insert any kind of writer here. So that's where you want to start. So I posted that link, and that does result in the AWAI verified test that Katie was talking about.
Great. Denise is asking, so just look for that link. it's under Kathy G. Kathy G's question.
If they
and it's on our main catalog. If you go to the catalog, it's the first product featured.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. I think we've covered everybody.
Yep.
That's a great group.
Oh, I was going to say one more time, if you can't find the link through the chat discussion here, go to our website, awaionline.com, click on Product Catalog, and the accelerated program for six-figure copywriting will be right at the top on the left. You can't miss it. Okay.
Where can that test be found? I think you answered that, right? It's at the very end of the accelerated program. It's the last tab.
Honey wants us to keep talking. Okay.
All right. Well, let me tell you about my weekend.
No, I still have a deadline. I have more copy to review. Well, I have all these writers sending in all this great copy. You guys keep me busy.
You can hear us keep talking on all the other Inside AWAI sessions too, though.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
oh, that's a good idea.
If you go over there, oh my gosh, you'll hear us talking, I don't know, 20 hours worth of material there?
More than that. We're in our,
maybe more.
This is our 3rd year. So this is our 26th Inside AWAI webinar.
Oh, no, wait. Okay, all bets are off on us getting off this call. Carol wants us to talk about boot camp.
Oh!
Go for it.
Pull up a chair, get a drink of water. You want to talk about a party? Yeah. You know what? We'll have other conversations about boot camp. Boot camp is our big annual copywriting extravaganza. We have over 400 writers, AWAI members, from very beginners to seasoned pros. We have the best experts, gurus, teachers, teaching, interacting, available, hanging out. We have 40-plus marketers there to meet copywriters. It is like nothing else ever that you could imagine. There is the most positive energy. It's the most exhilarating, exciting, beneficial way. More careers have started at boot camp than through any other single resource that we have. And it's just a whole lot of fun. So that's my my very unbiased plug about boot camp.
And David wants to know how many people come to boot camp each year. How many?
There's about usually around 400 or so, and they're your tribe, your buddies, your support system. Even if you don't know them yet, they are. There have been more friendships. There have been more business partnerships. There's been a marriage. That's what all that's come out of boot camp.
Can we start putting that in as a bullet? You might experience this and that, or marriage.
Dangerous.
I'm actually going to post, if you guys want to look it up, it's AWAI. You can actually hear Katie talk. It's at AWAIbootcamp.com. It has its own website. Well, Ted Capps will be the host at boot camp this year. He's great. He will definitely be there. We're not sure yet. We haven't even put together our schedule. We'll be doing that at Web Intensive next week here in Austin, Texas. We'll be finalizing boot camp. So stay tuned.
We love Ted, and he will definitely be a part of boot camp.
I wanted to say I love Sean's comment. Sean's comment is my favorite of the day. For free content on the business and process of copy and content writing, Inside AWAI is matched only by the Library of Congress. You know what? I don't think they have this amount of stuff at the Library of Congress.
All right, guys. Going once.
Let's do this.
Going twice. And we are
to say goodbye.
Love you guys.
All right, but you know what? We'll do this again next month. So please join us.
Same time next month. See you there.
Yep.
All right.
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.